Hello, my name is Sky and I'm going to be talking about bolts. So I'm going to be talking about the diameter, length, and pitch. The diameter is basically measured from this end to this end of the bolt. Do not get it confused with the diameter of the head, just because the head is obviously going to be a bit larger and you will get an inaccurate reading. The length of the bolt is measured from right underneath the head all the way to the tip of the bolt. And lastly, the pitch. So for this, you would need to measure 1 inch of the entire thread itself. Depending on how many threads there are per inch per inch is the pitch. So strength. Grade 2 is low to medium carbon steel. The nominal size range is typically 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. The PSI is 74,000, and you can tell it is a grade 2 just because it has no markings on the head. A grade 3 is medium carbon steel, 1/4 to 3/4 of size. The PSI is 110,000, and then you can tell it's a grade 3 because there's 2 markings. Grade 5 is medium carbon steel. Size range is 1/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches. PSI is 120,000, and there are 3 markings. Grade 8 has 6 markings. It is made out of medium carbon alloy steel. The nominal size range is 1/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches, and the PSI is 150,000. So basically, how you can tell which one is stronger is the more markings there are on the head of a bolt, it will typically mean that it is stronger. National coarse versus national fine. You can basically tell which one is the difference just because national coarse, there tends to be a larger gap in between each thread, versus national fine, there tends to be more threads per inch. Some advantages of having national fine is that it is more adjustable, it is easier to tap, it requires less torque, and also it doesn't loosen as easily compared to national coarse that is less susceptible to gailing. It is harder to strip, and also it can be shorter than national fine and still hold the same holding power. The following images are going to be images of each individual type of bolt. So the first one is a hex head bolt. The next one is a socket head bolt. As you can tell, the tip of the bolt kind of resembles one of those like socket ratchets that they use in mechanics. The continuous thread, the entire bolt itself is just covered in thread. The carriage bolt, the flang bolt, the eye bolt, the lag bolt. So basically for the lag bolt, you can tell the difference is not only in the length itself, but also there tends to be a larger gap before it actually gets to the thread itself. And then cutting versus rolling thread. The main difference that I was noticing is that many people were actually recommending the rolled thread versus the cutting thread. According to them, rolling thread tends to be stronger because it is made by a hand die. Also, the grain flows in more than one directions. They tend to be smoother, less labor is required, which means they are cheaper. One negative though that I did find from a rolled thread is that they cannot be recut, versus cut thread, it is basically just severing the steel's grain to make more threads. Another difference that I noticed is that a cut thread tends to be smooth all the way, when they start cutting it, it kind of is just continuous, versus a rolled thread. The major diameter tends to be larger than the pitch diameter, so that is also one way you can tell the difference between the two. As I mentioned, most people did recommend a rolled thread. And that is it.